Welcome to the Chronicles of Rome. Episode 20, Third Punic War, Ashes of Titans. Picture a Mediterranean quaking under Rome's iron tread. It's 149 BCE and the Republic, hardened by victories at Zama and Magnesia, broods with restless power. Carthage, its once mighty sails tattered since Hannibal's fall, dares to defy Rome's leash, striking Numidian raiders without the Senate's nod. Across the sea, the Achaean League, a defiant cluster of Greek cities, grips their spears, their voices rising against Roman chains. In Rome's marbled halls, senators in crimson-edged togas murmur of annihilation, their ambitions cloaked in pride. From the ruins of ancient rivals, Rome will forge its crown, its legions poised to torch Carthage's streets and topple Corinth's towers, claiming the sea as Mare Nostrum, our sea. This is no mere war. It is a saga of retribution and desolation, of cities reduced to ash and a republic bloated with triumph, its laurels dripping with the blood of the fallen. This is episode 20, spanning 149 to 146 BCE. We'll plunge into the Third Punic War, where Scipio Aemilianus besieges Carthage for 3 relentless years, leaving it a charred wasteland sown with salt. We'll storm Greece, where the Achaean War ends with Corinth's fiery ruin, its wealth plundered and its people shackled. Rome annexes North Africa as Africa Proconsularis and binds Greece to Macedonia's province, its rule unchallenged across the Mediterranean. Yet beneath this glory, shadows lengthen as gold and slaves flood Rome, splitting rich from poor, a rift that will smolder into the next tale. The story ignites in 149 BCE. Carthage basks under a relentless North African sun, its limestone walls shimmering white against a sapphire sea. Fishermen mend nets on docks fragrant with cedar and fish, while merchants hawk olives and purple-dyed cloth in bustling markets. Yet beyond the city's bustle, tension festers. Forbidden by treaty to wage war without Rome's consent, Carthage sends spearmen to repel Numidian horsemen raiding its fields, their hooves churning dust into golden clouds. In Rome, this defiance strikes like a spark on dry tinder. The Senate gathers beneath the Curia's vaulted roof, their voices a low thunder, led by Cato the Elder, a stooped 85-year-old with a voice like gravel, his gnarled hand pounding a staff as he cries, per Plutarch's Life of Cato the Elder, Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. Rome dispatches consuls Lucius Marcius Censorinus, a wiry 50-year-old with a hawkish nose, and Manius Manilius, a stout 45-year-old with a perpetual squint, leading 40,000 legionaries, their lorica segmentata glinting like molten bronze, each man clutching a gladius and 2 pila, their iron tips catching the dawn. 10,000 Numidian allies, their leather tunics sweat-stained, wield javelins and ride bareback, their tribal tattoos stark against tanned skin. 80 quinqueremes, their decks groaning with 100 tons of Sicilian grain, 2,000 pilla, and 50 barrels of pitch, slice through the sea from Ostia, 150 miles in 3 days, landing near Utica, the air thick with salt spray and the creak of oars. Carthage answers with 30,000 infantry, spearmen in linen tunics gripping round shields edged with bronze, their curved falcatas gleaming, and 5,000 cavalry, Numidian turncoats on wiry steeds, lances poised, cloaks snapping in the breeze. Hasdrubal, their general 40, his jaw scarred from old battles, stands atop a tower, his dark eyes scanning the horizon, vowing as Appian might craft, "We will hold Carthage with our blood, not our knees." The siege erupts in spring 149. Rome's 40,000 ring Carthage, a city of 500,000 souls, its walls 30 feet high, 10 feet thick, their limestone pocked with scars, 50 towers bristling with ballistae that hurl 20-pound bolts. Censorinus, his red cloak billowing, arrays his maniples across the dunes, hastati forward with oval scuta shields and gladii drawn, principes behind gripping pila, their red plumes dancing in the wind. 20 catapults groan as they loose stones, each 100 pounds, smashing into walls with a bone-jarring thud, dust billowing like a storm, while 10 onagers fling clay firepots, their pitch and sulfur igniting midair, bursting into flames that sear the sky, the stench of burning tar choking the lungs. Carthage's spearmen crowd the ramparts, their ballistae twanging, bolts splintering 1,000 Roman shields, oak cracking like thunder, while 5,000 javelins arc down, their iron tips glinting, piercing 500 hastati, blood pooling on sand baked hard as stone. Numidian cavalry burst from the gates, hooves drumming a frantic rhythm, lances skewering 2,000 legionaries, chainmail tearing with wet snaps. Before Roman Pila whistle back, punching through leather and horseflesh, 1,000 riders toppling, their mounts screaming, the ground a tangle of broken shafts and twitching limbs. Rome digs trenches 10 feet deep, stakes jutting like jagged teeth, and raises 50 wooden turrets, their archers loosing arrows that hum like wasps. Camps of 200 tents bloom nightly, their canvas glowing orange under torchlight, the air heavy with smoke, sweat, and the mournful wail of Carthage's bronze horns. Inside, Amina, a young mother, clutches her infant in a mud brick home, the distant booms rattling clay pots, her whispered prayers lost in the din. The city clings to 50 tons of wheat in its granaries, its wells cold and deep, but starvation stalks the streets as months grind into years. By 148, Rome reels. Censorinus falls ill, his tent a shadowed husk coughing into blood-streaked rags, while Manilius's assaults crumble, 5,000 lost to dysentery and ambushes, their corpses rotting in ditches, the air buzzing with flies and the reek of decay. The Senate summons Scipio Aemilianus, 36, adopted grandson of Africanus, his dark eyes burning with resolve, his voice steady as he declares, per Polybius's histories, "I will finish what my fathers began." Elected consul in 147 BCE, he strides ashore with 20,000 fresh legionaries, their scuta painted red, each man armed with a pilum and a dagger, and 10 quinqueremes bearing 50 tons of grain and 100 amphorae of oil, their decks slick with sea spray. He tightens the siege, ordering a mole, a stone barrier 500 feet long and 20 feet high, across Carthage's harbor. 1,000 mules straining under limestone blocks, the sea lapping at their hooves, aiming to strangle its lifeline. Yet Carthage resists, its engineers digging a secret channel through the harbor's silt, a narrow vein to the sea, slipping out small boats under moonless skies, their oars muffled, hulls laden with stolen grain. Scipio raises 50 siege towers, 30 feet tall, their hides dripping wet to defy fire, and mounts 20 scorpions, their 10-pound bolts hissing through the air. Hasdrubal rallies his 30,000, their faces hollow, spears trembling in bony hands, shields chipped and dull. Scipio's 40 catapults hammer the city, fire pots arcing like comets, their orange glow splashing across rooftops, flames devouring homes, the screams of 5,000 civilians clawing at the night, the air thick with ash, despair, and the acrid bite of burning wood. Amina's house collapses, her infant's cries silenced under rubble, her own hands clawing at dust until they bleed. In spring 146, Scipio unleashes his final assault. His 40,000 storm the Bursa citadel over 6 brutal days, scaling ladders under a hail of javelins and ballista bolts, the air a storm of iron and wood, 2,000 falling as tips pierce chainmail and skulls, blood streaming down ladders like rain. Legionaries breach the gates with battering rams, bronze rams, heads splintering oak, and flood the streets. Gladii flashing in torchlight, a relentless tide of steel cutting down 10,000 defenders in tight alleys, falcatas clashing, sparks flying, blood pooling on cobblestones warm from the sun, the din of metal a deafening roar. Hasdrubal surrenders, kneeling in dust, his armor dented, but his wife, her hair wild, hurls herself and her children into a blazing temple, flames licking the sky, 1,000 trapped souls screaming as the roof caves in, the crackle of timber drowning their end. 50,000 Carthaginians perish over 3 years, Rome losing 15,000 to steel, sickness, and fire, the city a chaos of shattered spears, dented shields, and smoldering husks. Scipio orders it razed, 600 acres burned, walls toppled by 1,000 sappers with picks and pry bars, their grunts lost in the fire's roar, the air thick with soot, and the stench of charred flesh, a black haze blotting the sun. He scatters salt over the ashes, a symbolic curse per later tales, declaring as Appian records in Punic Wars, "This is the end of Carthage, a name to be forgotten." Rome claims North Africa as Africa Proconsularis, its fields now Roman, its people enslaved, 30,000 staggering in chains to the docks, their shackles clanking, their eyes hollow as the wind carries ash over a silent sea. Across the sea, Greece seethes under a summer sun. The Achaean League, cities like Corinth, Argos, and Sparta, bound by pride, defies Rome's shadow, their agora alive with the clatter of bronze and the scent of olive oil. Critolaus, their strategos in 146 BCE 50, his voice a thunderclap, rallies 15,000 hoplites. their 8-foot bronze-tipped spears gleaming like a forest of deadly reeds, bronze greaves and breastplates polished to a mirror sheen, and 5,000 light infantry, slingers and swordsmen in sweat-soaked leather tunics. He stands in Corinth's agora, his fist raised, proclaiming as Polybius might craft in histories, "We will not bow to Roman whips, nor yield our fathers' lands." Rome sends Quintus Caecilius Metellus, his jaw set, fresh from crushing Andriscus, with 20,000 legionaries, their segmentata clanking, gladii and pila at the ready, and 5,000 Pergamon allies, archers with recurved bows and hoplites in bronze, their sandals crunching gravel. 30 quinquiremes land them near Corinth, 40 tons of grain stacked on decks, the sea air sharp with salt and pine resin. Critolus meets him at Scarphaea, a rocky plain cradled by cliffs near the Gulf of Corinth. His 20,000 forming a phalanx, spears locked, round shields overlapping, a wall of bronze shimmering in the heat. Metellus's maniples advance across scrub and stone, pila whistling, their iron tips shattering 1,000 shields, wood and bone crunching, while 50 scorpions loose bolts, punching through breastplates, 500 hoplites collapsing in grunts and sprays of crimson. Pergamon cavalry, 2,000 strong, sweep the flanks, lances lowered, hooves thundering over shale, Copes swords slashing necks and thighs, routing 5,000 Greeks, blood painting the dust, the air alive with war cries, the twang of bowstrings, and the bleating of scattered goats. 10,000 Achaeans fall, Critolus pierced through his breastplate by a pilum, his body crumpling amid a tangle of broken spears, Rome losing 2,000, their red cloaks trampled into earth baked hard, the stench of gore mingling with wild time. Lucius Mummius, a blunt 45-year-old consul with a scarred brow and a growl in his throat, arrives to seal Greece's fate, marching from Macedonia with 23,000 legionaries, their scuta freshly painted and 5,000 allies, a 100-mile trek in 10 days over rugged trails, their hobnails sparking on flint, camps of 100 tents glowing under starlight, the air sharp with resin and smoke. He faces Diaeus, Critolus's successor, as Strategos at Corinth, a city of 50,000, its isthmus walls 10 feet high, their limestone streaked with moss, topped with 20 ballistae firing iron-tipped bolts. Diaeus, his gray hair wild, musters 12,000 hoplites, their bronze armor dented from Scarphaea, and 3,000 cavalry, their steel-tipped lances gleaming, shouting as a crafted echo of defiance. Corinth stands free or falls free. Mummius arrays his 28,000 across the plain, Hastati forward with gladii drawn, Principes behind with pila cocked, and deploys 30 catapults, their ropes taut, hurling stones that splinter gates, each crash shaking the earth, the air thick with dust and the screech of tortured wood, the sea beyond glinting like molten silver. On a blazing summer day in 146, Rome storms the walls, ladders rising under a hail of sling stones and ballista bolts, 1,000 falling as rocks crack helmets and bolts pierce thighs, blood streaming down limestone like rivulets of rust. Legionaries surge inside, gladii slashing in tight alleys, cutting down 8,000 hoplites, their spears snapping under shield bashes, the clang of bronze on steel a relentless din, blood-staining marble statues of Poseidon, their tridents looming over carnage. Diaeus flees, his cloak snagging on thorns, then takes his life with poison, its burns searing his throat as he collapses in a cypress grove, while 3,000 cavalry scatter, hooves fading into hills, their lances abandoned in the dirt. Mummius sacks Corinth, torching homes with 500 firepots, pitch-igniting roofs, flames consuming 10,000 buildings, their tiles crashing like thunder, the air black with smoke and the tang of molten bronze, the screams of 20,000 dying or enslaved swallowed by the blaze. Treasures, gold tripods, bronze shields, and marble busts tumble into 50 wagons bound for Rome, the agora a graveyard of shattered columns and trampled laurels. Polybius, an eyewitness, mourns in his histories, "I saw paintings flung to the ground, soldiers dicing on them," his voice a whisper amid the ruin. Rome binds Greece to Macedonia's province, its polis now tax farms under Roman governors, their agora silent but for the clink of Roman coins and the shuffle of chained feet. The Mediterranean lies open, Mare Nostrum, Rome's sea, its shores from Hispania to Asia under one banner. Yet this triumph caps a century of Punic Wars, begun in 264 BCE when Rome and Carthage clashed over Sicily. The First Punic War saw naval battles off Mylae and Ecnomus, Rome's quinquiremes with corvus ramps sinking 200 Carthaginian ships, their oars splintering into waves, drowning 50,000 sailors and soldiers, while Rome lost 30,000 men and 100 vessels, their hulls cracked by rams, thousands of horses washing ashore, their bloated forms stinking of salt and rot. The Second Punic War, sparked in 218 BCE by Hannibal's Alpine March with 37 elephants, brought slaughter across Italy, Spain, and Africa, over 200,000 falling at Cannae, Trasimene, and Zama, their gladii and sarissas littering fields, 20,000 horses and most elephants dying in battle or mud, their trumpets fading into silence. The Third Punic War claims 50,000 Carthaginian lives and 15,000 Roman, 5,000 horses and mules bleaching under African sun, a toll of nearly 500,000 souls and 50,000 beasts across 118 years, blood soaking 3 continents. Victory floods Rome with 50,000 slaves from Carthage and Greece, their chains clanking in foreign markets, and gold that gilds the elite, widening the gulf with the poor, a tension brewing as Polybius warns in Histories, the conquerors became the conquered by their own spoils. But remember this. Once Rome was a city trembling on the Tiber's banks, its walls breached by Gauls, its people huddled in fear of shadows beyond the hills. It fought not for dominion, but for breath, each battle a plea to endure. Carthage and Corinth stood as giants then, their names whispered with awe, while Rome was but a spark in the dust. Now those titans lie in ashes, their echoes silenced by a republic that no longer begs for place, but demands the world. From these flames a new Rome rises, not content to hold, but driven to rule. Its legions march not just to win, but to reshape the earth in their image. A city once fragile now casts a shadow vast and unyielding. Its destiny no longer a question, but a promise. What it was fades, what it will become stirs, a power that will not pause, a will that will not bend. This has been the Chronicles of Rome. Join us next time for 145 to 133 BCE. Where Rome consolidates Sicily, Africa, and Macedonia, but slaves and latifundia displace farmers, swelling the urban poor. The Senate resists reform, corruption festers, and unrest simmers. Rome's fire burned hottest when its foes lay cold, but now it turns inward.